Karate Bob and Lubbers Muslim bomb. The following article is taken from the Dutch internet site Kleintemuurkrant, www.sterling.nl/follow-up/. Its original title is Lubbers and a Muzelmannenbom. No author was mentioned. It appeared in 12 installments from September 7th to October 18th, 2005 and is printed here as a supplement to the above newspaper article and to appendices 8, 9 and 10 in Operation Twin's Eye, in which Maitrick asks Lubbers to finally live up to their contract, mentioned below. The name of the intermediary between Karate Bob and Lubbers, who was designated in Operation Twin's Eye only by G. Van H. and in the original Dutch internet version of this article by a certain X, is here, on the authority of Slobodan Maitrick, revealed for the first time. It is Van Hulst, former head of the Dutch Boulevard National Security Service, which in 2002 became the AIVD. It caused but a wrinkle in the Dutch mainstream media. Lubbers' pronouncement on August 9th of this year, 2005, that the CIA was informed from the beginning of the activities of the Pakistani metallurgical engineer Abdul Qadir Khan, the father of the Pakistani nuclear bomb, and that the agency preferred him to let him go his way, supposedly, to be able to map its network. Bullshit of course, but never mind. After a couple of members of the Dutch Prime Minister, Balkenende gang declared the ex-premier more or less whoopee, and Lubbers himself did not come up with more details. The story disappeared into the archives. In spite of the fact that Ruth's story, to which Christa van Velzen from the Dutch Parliament had already given a prelude, had a formidable impact. We felt ourselves in fact nicely blubbered, not for the first time either. We have, as it happens, already referred more often to another nuclear affair with which the womanizer from Kralingen, a suburb of Rotterdam, has had to do in his political career. In the context, he got visit at home from two gentlemen on the evening of January 18, 1985. One of them he knew well. That was Jos Kieboom, his own consultant. He did not know the other one. It was a Rotterdammer, who was acting as an intermediary for the detained Slobodan Maitrick, alias Karate Bob. The latter had in the various state institutions, where he was detained in the 80s, heard whispers in the grapevine concerning a secret nuclear deal between a business delegation from the Dutch industry and a mixed delegation from the Middle East, plus in the context the theft of a sizable shipment of uranium. Maitrick claimed to know where that uranium was and sought in direct contact with Prime Minister Lubbers. The latter regarded the matter obviously that serious that he took steps to have Kieboom arrange the aforementioned meeting with Maitrick's intermediary on January 18, 1985. Out of that meeting came the following list of demands made by Maitrick as articulated by his intermediary on January 30th, following the delivery and affirmation of the sample. The detention of Maitrick is to be suspended immediately. Maitrick and persons to be appointed by him are then requested to negotiate at once to formulate their demands to Prime Minister Lubbers. All demands made by me, Van Hulst, being a residence permit for Maitrick, protection for the informant involved, bail payment of the agreed amount are to be met in advance. With regard to the matter of the presence of representatives of foreign nations, this will be rejected. No trifle thus, but because the uranium sample was not delivered, the whole matter was eventually blown off. Which does not mean, however, that the stolen uranium did not exist. It would be nice if Lubbers were to also go public concerning this affair, but then preferably from A to Z. Otherwise we continue to guess. To the intermediary, Van Hulst. Between the then Prime Minister Lubbers and the detained Slobodan Maitrick had not been chosen accidentally. Van Hulst had been, as it happens, from the beginning involved in the aforementioned secret negotiations between the delegation of Dutch businessmen and the motley crew from the Middle East concerning the nuclear deal. And, a happy detail, he had arrived on August 4, 1984, because of a minor incident via a police cell in Mars Louise, at the House of Detention. After 2 days, he got a visit from an inspector named DeBoer, who invited him to work on a large forthcoming project. Now, Van Holst sat there anyways. You can annoy yourself literally to death in jail, so why not? Within a couple days he got a new neighbor who had been transferred from Leeuwarden, in the Dutch province of Friesland, to Rotterdam. You can bet who that was. Very well, Slobodan Mitrick. In the months afterwards, Bob Mitrick was to confide to his neighbor that he was busy closing a deal with the Dutch Central Ministry of General Affairs. He wanted to get out of jail in exchange for disclosing the whereabouts of the stolen shipment of uranium. Would Van Holst act as an intermediary when he got out again? Well, Van Holst wouldn't mind. 2 days before the annual hustle and bustle concerning that stable in Bethlehem, Van Holst was freed. The first weeks he heard nothing. But before the first week of January 1985 was over, he got a phone call. If he would visit Bob a moment. Of course. According to the slightly agitated Mitrick, the matter would come to a head and Van Holst would be approached by a couple of chaps who would close the deal. And indeed, that same evening Van Holst got a phone call. An unknown voice said, "We are the people that Bob was talking about this afternoon. We want to talk with you for a while. If you walk now to the corner of the street, we will pick you up there." The intermediary quickly put on his coat, ran to the corner of the street and stepped in a car filled with 2 men from the Ministry of General Affairs. After a short ride, the trio came to the parking lot of a restaurant where the boys from the ministry explained what they wanted. If Van Holst would cooperate in solving the matter, which Mitrick had brought forward. Van Holst hesitated, but the boys from the ministry are known for their power of persuasion and Van Holst finally came around. After he was brought back home, one of the men said, "In 2 hours you will receive a telephone call." And he was right. About 12 o'clock the phone rang, with key boom. "If you to go to Erasmus University tomorrow morning, you will find me on the first floor at the Donner Bookshop. There we can talk further." 3. Any doubts that Van Holst, the intermediary of Slobodan Mitrick, might have had about his appointment with Jos Keyboom were entirely eliminated the next morning. He found Lubbers' consultant indeed on the agreed spot. The Donner Bookshop on the first floor of Erasmus University. Whether Van Holst at that moment already knew what kind of function Keyboom held remains a question. After some obligatory preliminaries, the 2 gentlemen withdrew to a parlor. The Van Holst unrolled the list of demands by Mitrick that, in his view of the slow course the negotiations had been modified repeatedly in the preceding period. Keyboom listened to Van Holst and said patiently at the end of the conversation, "Well, I know it now. Wait a while longer. I will call you again and then I'll take you to someone." A few of days later, on Saturday, January 18th, at the end of the afternoon, the intermediary got Keyboom on the line, who asked him if he could be at the Kralinga Golf Club at 7 o'clock. There he would come by to pick up Van Holst. Properly on time, the 2 men met each other again. This time at the parking lot of the golf club. Keyboom, "Now I will bring you to someone with whom you can definitively close the deal." They drove through the better part of Kralingen to a villa on the corner of Lambertweg and walked in the dark along the garden path to the front door, which opened almost immediately. Before he knew it, Van Holst stood in the study on the first floor, together with Keyboom. A moment later, the occupant of the house made his appearance, Ruud Lubbers, the Prime Minister, and the conversation began. The basic list of demands made by Slobodan Mitrick was rather simple: official pardon after delivery of the sample of uranium, a residence permit, protection for the original informant and the deposit of $3 million in a Swiss bank with a down payment of $1 million. Furthermore, The intermediary requested Lubbers to find out if the British could possibly take Maitrick over, in matters of housing him and a job with some British Secret Service. If London agreed to this, Maitrick would like to see that confirmed in an advertisement of the biggest Dutch daily newspaper, The Telegraph. Lubbers did not find this a nice idea immediately. Also, the proposal to set Maitrick free in exchange for information did not fall immediately into place. But after some insistence, he said with his eyes squeezed, I don't have to take care of that. But I know some people who are perhaps interested in his knowledge and they have enough power to secure his future. Eventually, Lubbers even agreed to place an ad in The Telegraph if the wishes of Maitrick could be fulfilled. The text of it read, F. Giesberts must take the place of Martin. Sorry about half-joker. This was fateful for him. The big industrialist wants to first read the book of 239 pages before it is definitively published. F. Giesberts has half the bait already. The vassal of the big industrialist has the other half. A Marnin film star, as a matter of fact also a big madam, sit in the editorial commission. Don't worry, you were and remain a loner. Your friend, Frank Waterfort, cryptic, but not unbreakable. Aman stood for the Israeli Military Intelligence Service, the film star for President Reagan, the big madam for Premier Thatcher and the big industrialist for Lubbers. The book of 239 pages was The Dutch Mafia that Maitrick had conceived should be Operation Twins, according to Maitrick, note by the translator. But who was Martin? Who according to the text apparently went around the corner, i.e. died previously, because he possessed the half-joker. Logically that could only be one, Martinus Fenn, who was murdered on December 17, 1984. Alias Beautiful Tenus, the uncrowned king of the underworld in The Hague and the protagonist in Maitrick, masterwork, The Dutch Mafia, not translated.